So it's been over a whole year since I uploaded my first video in English. This year was honestly so incredible. We grew from 100 subscribers to over 30,000 subscribers, and that's just amazing. So in this video I want to show you excerpts of the most important lessons that I produced over this year. You might have already seen some of them, but maybe there are some videos that you haven't seen before. So sit back, enjoy it, and we'll see us at the next lesson. Take care. So how does spin affect the cueball path after contact with the rail? It's actually pretty simple if there is no object ball involved. We're going to divide the cueball into aiming points of half a tip, and this half a tip equals 1 diamond. So if we go half a tip to the right, the cueball will hit 1 diamond to the right. If we add 1 tip, the cueball will hit 2 diamonds to the right. And if we add 1.5 tip, the cueball will hit 3 diamonds to the right. Pretty simple, isn't it? But what happens if we're going the long way on the table? This system doesn't change. Half a tip will still mean 1 diamond to the right. But since the distance is now doubled, the diamonds will be doubled. So if we add half a tip, the cueball will on the center be 1 diamond away, and at the top of the table be 2 diamonds away. We could maybe hit a little harder and shallow the angle even more, but we still wouldn't reach the 2 ball. So how can we reach the 2 ball? What we're now doing is cheating the outcoming angle of the rail by hitting low on the cueball. But why low? We have to understand that if we hit low into the rail, the cueball comes out of the rail with high, and that high that we're playing will bring us into this direction because the cueball has this rotation on it, and this force will bring us towards this direction, and that's why we have to play the cueball with low. Look at the curve that the cueball makes. The spin grabs on the cloth and brings us towards the corner pocket. This is the line that the cueball will travel, and now comes a very interesting part. If we compare this line with the line of the cueball on reference line number 1, we see that the cueball will actually travel the same path towards the end. And that's because if we hit a lot of rails with running side, the angles are self-correcting. That's the same principle, by the way, that happened in Chris Melling's famous 4-rail shot. I don't say that this shot is easy, but I saw a few people recreating the run, and the easiest shot to recreate was actually this 4-railer, because of the self-correcting angles. But now I'm showing you an, in my opinion, very smart way to use the bridge. To be able to play the shot, you will need a butt end extension for your cue. And we now use the bridge just as a replacement for our bridging hand. While doing that, hold the bridge with your hand on the table. And as you see, now you can play the shot with your strong arm just as if it was a normal shot. And by doing that, you will be way more accurate. As you see here, we have a ball where we either can draw to get position for the 10 ball, or we can follow the cue ball. Look at my left arm, it's too high in the air. So another clever trick is to put your cue stick into the bridge. That way you have kind of a closed bridge and you can play the ball with a more level cue. And here I'm going to draw the cue ball up table. If we would have played the shot with the normal bridge technique, it would be much harder, but with this new technique it becomes just a normal shot that is very easy to execute. This is our table. We broke a rack of 8 ball. Let's position the cue ball on the center of the table. And now look how many balls you could make from that center table position. You could make the 1, the 2, the 4 ball, the 5, the 6, even the 7 is a little tough, it's makeable, the 8, the 9, the 10, the 11 is tough but also makeable, the 12, 13, 14 and also number 15. Now have a look at our heat map. If an object ball is placed at the red area, it is very hard to make the ball directly. In our example, the free ball is the only ball in this area. But as you see, the green area is just huge. You can make so many balls if you're center table with the cue ball. Before we start, I have to tell you a really important thing. You have to plan 3 shots ahead. That means when you're playing the 1 ball, you're not just getting position to play the 2 ball to pot the 2 ball. No, you want to get the right position on the 2 ball to get easily to the 4 ball. Imagine if you're getting straight on the 2 ball or you're getting the wrong angle, you have no chance to get on the 4 ball. So when you're playing the 1, you're not just thinking about the next ball, you think 3 balls ahead. So we want to have an angle on the 2 ball to get easily to the 4 ball. If we're on the 2 ball, we think about the 5 ball in this case. Yeah, we're on the 2 ball and we want to get not straight on the 4 ball in this case. We want to have the right angle to get easily to the 5 ball. And if we're on the 5 ball, yeah, we plan always 3 shots ahead. So remember, just do it. It will make the game so easy. You won't have to play tough positions. If you always choose the easiest way, keep it simple. And if it looks simple and if it looks boring, then you're a good player. So first position, we want to get the right angle on 2 ball. You see here, this is the danger zone. We don't want to be here because we wouldn't be able to see the 2 ball. Yeah, there are a few positions. We can go here. That's the first way and that's the second way to go here. But we don't want to do that because we're crossing the danger zone and that's dangerous. Yeah, so we choose another way. We go this way, stay out of the danger zone and get the right position, get the right angle for the 2 ball so that we can easily get position for the 4 ball. In this case, I'm not able to reach the shot with my strong arm, so I just switched sides. I already made a video where I told you to train your weak arm so that you're able to play shots like this with your weak arm as well. In this example, I also want to get on the right side of the 9, of course. And again, I play for the bigger angle. Because if I play for that slight angle on the 9, I have to risk to come too short and have to go the long way all around the table. And as you see, even a bigger angle poses no problem. I can just play the same shot and roll the cue ball in. This example is similar to the first situation. I just play a stop shot and have to force the cue ball up table. See what happens when I just follow the cue ball a little more. Do you see the difference in my strokes? I didn't have to work hard on the right side, where I had the bigger angle on the 9 ball. On the left side, you see how hard I had to hit and how I had to force the cue ball. Both ways are possible, of course, but we want to make it as easy as possible to get position for the next ball, and that's obviously easier with more angle on the 9 ball. Let's just take this shot as an example shot and try it out. I will hit the ball 3 times in a row with the same amount of follow. The first case I hit it real soft and you see where I hit the rail. My second try a little harder, you see I hit the rail a little more up table. And now I hit it really hard and you see I'm even hitting the short rail instead of the long rail. So as you saw, it takes the cue ball a little while to leave the tangent line if you hit harder. But now let's take a look at the exact path of the cue ball in the slow-mo. You see the cue ball travels really a short time on the tangent line till it leaves it until the forward spin grabs. That's because I hit it so soft so the forward spin can grab much faster. Here I'm hitting a little harder and you're seeing the cue ball takes a little while to leave the tangent line and that causes the cue ball to hit a little more up table on the rail. And here in the last attempt where I hit the cue ball really hard, the cue ball stays a long time on the tangent line till it finally grabs, the forward spin grabs on the cloth and brings the cue ball to the right side of the table because of the forward rotation. This is the same shot that I had to play with low right to get up table. But now I'm deciding, okay, I don't play it low right, I'm just gonna play it with right spin, no bottom on the cue ball. The question is, am I now able to go up table? Well, let's find out. As you see, I was able to hit the cue ball really soft because I don't had to add the bottom spin, just rolling cue ball with a lot of right spin, so no need to hit the cue ball hard. If you wanna follow the ball or draw the cue ball back, you always have to hit with a little more of pace. But if you add right or left spin, you can just roll the cue ball, hit it really soft, because left or right spin is just way more persistent than draw or follow. But now the big question is, why can I play the cue ball low right and go up table, and why can I play it with just right and go also up table? Well, there are two big things. First, imagine a cue ball. Now see, we're hitting low right on the cue ball. If I now move the contact point to the center of the ball, you see how much right spin I'm actually giving, and you see it's not that much. If you hit at the center of the cue ball, you can always give the most amount of right or left spin, because the area is just bigger in this case. Yeah, you can go just more to the right or to the left than if you're hitting low or high on the cue ball. That's the first case, we can just give more spin to the cue ball. So this leads us to the next principle that is called going towards the line. As you saw, this is the point where we want to be. And if we are drawing this line from the object ball to the cue ball to the rail, the angle is all the time the same if the cue ball is on this line. So our goal is to find a path so that the cue ball is moving on that line and isn't crossing that line. That means that the cue ball has to hit here on the rail and then it goes towards the 5 ball on that line. Now I just gotta manage to hit the short rail, bounce to that point on the long rail, and I'm going on the position line towards the 5 ball. And here my speed control is much easier because the angle doesn't change on that line. The cue ball can be from here to here and it doesn't change anything. So going towards the line is a pretty powerful way to get safe position. Do this as often as possible. Look for easy ways to go towards the line and don't cross the position line. Now we can watch my final attempt on how to run this rack. Now we can start to talk about the tangent line. There's the 9 ball somewhere on the table and we want to hit the 9 ball into this direction because there maybe is a pocket. We now have to imagine the ghost ball. The ghost ball means where will our cue ball hit the 9 ball in this case. Now we're moving the potting line slightly back so that it touches the center of the ghost ball. So the line goes from the center of the ghost ball through the center of the 9 ball. Just a little reminder for the ghost ball principle, if we aim to the center of the ghost ball, we will hit the 9 at the right spot in order to make it. Now we can draw our tangent line. As you see, the tangent line has this 90-degree angle, and this 90-degree angle is really important to predict where the cue ball is gonna go after we made contact with the 9 ball. This is the line where the cue ball is coming from. As you see, the cue ball travels straight towards the 9 ball, so we're gonna play a stop shot. This is pretty easy, but now the tangent line comes into play. If we move that line to the left, now the cue ball is coming from this angle. As you see, the cue ball now hits the 9 ball and travels along the tangent line because of that sliding cue ball. So the cue ball travels, hits the 9 ball, and will exactly slide along that tangent line if you have a perfect sliding cue ball. And even if we change the angle where the cue ball is coming from now, what happens is the cue ball is gonna travel along the tangent line as well. It doesn't change because the contact point at the 9 ball doesn't change. No matter where you are coming from, you will always have that 90-degree angle that we have drawn in the beginning. So even if you're coming from this side, if you have a perfect sliding cue ball, the cue ball will always gonna travel along the tangent line. Of course, if you're coming from this side, then the cue ball is gonna go down and it's gonna travel along this part of the tangent line. And that's the whole principle. The most important thing when playing position is to understand where the cue ball does travel naturally if we don't do something special with the cue ball. And you see the cue ball will somehow travel along this path, maybe miss the 6 or hit the 6, so that's not good. Now we're looking where we can hit that first rail and we see it's in this area. All we have to think now is where do we want to hit the first rail and where do we want to hit the second rail, and then we can finish the path of the cue ball in our imagination. We can manipulate the contact point on the first rail by hitting high or low on the cue ball, and the contact point on the second rail can be manipulated by hitting left or right English. And as you see, after hitting these 2 rails, it's only a matter of speed because then we cannot change the path of the cue ball. So we can manipulate the path of the cue ball with the first 2 rails. Again here from the 5 to the 6 ball. Where does the cue ball go with a rolling cue ball? And we know, or you have to know, if you just roll the cue ball in, you will automatically come exactly towards the 6 ball. And if you're doing that, we can play the 6 ball straight into the corner pocket and after that follow the 6 ball for the 7 ball. So again, the most important thing is to understand where the cue ball does travel naturally. We are playing 10 ball and have the wrong angle on the 9 ball. We can't cheat the pocket because we would miss. So here we are using the force follow shot to get position. And of course, there are other ways to get position, but this video is about force follow. We are aiming high on the cue ball, maybe a touch of left English, and then we hit pretty hard and follow through the cue ball. And as you see, the cue ball bounces off the rail, then the force follow grabs on the table and brings us down table. Or here we have another situation, we have the wrong angle, so we just force follow the cue ball to get position for the 8 ball. Or another example where we of course could play a stop shot, but to be honest, a force follow shot just looks great. And here we have another situation that is a little trickier than the other ones. We are playing 8 ball, our last solid is hanging over the pocket and we have to get position for the 8. But there are a lot of balls in the way. You had very good ideas how to play the shot. One of them was to hit the 2 ball just win and go 1 rail towards the 8 ball. I made this shot on my second attempt. Another idea was the 4-railer. You just gotta be a little careful with the side pocket. So I would probably prefer the 1-rail position, even if I made this shot on my first attempt. But as you may expect it, there is a solution that has something to do with force follow. And some of you suggested the force follow shot without knowing about this lesson. Here you can see a kind of force follow shot that holds the cue ball with a shot on the 8 ball. And here you can see the shot with more force follow. That's also what I did to get position for the 8 ball. It took me 4 attempts for that shot. So you see, it looks great and can bring you great results, but it's not an easy or controllable shot. Thanks for your videos and your comments, guys. So let's see how you do it the right way. You look at the angle. Of course, on easy shots you don't have to do that. And after you check the angle, you're not going down and play the shot. You step behind the ball in the exact line that you want to hit the 8 ball. Then you visualize how the 8 ball will drop into the corner pocket and which path the cue ball should take. At that point, you should already know at which speed you will hit the 8 ball and which amount of low or high or left or right English you want to give. After you made your plan and everything is clear, you can start to play the shot. You don't see my eyes in this video, but at that point I focused that exact point on the 8 ball the whole time. My eyes are focused on the ball. My cue stick is already in the right line where I have to send the cue ball. My left foot is exactly under this line because I'm left-handed. My head is also on that line and my left arm is also on that line. So this is called the baseline. So all you have to do now is go down at the shot and never leave that line with anything. So what I was doing is pretty much aiming even before going down on the shot, and that is very important to do. He breaks for the match and has a shot on the 1 ball. The only option he has is to hit the 1 ball very thin into the side pocket and come around the table. Unfortunately, he brushes the 6 ball just a little bit, and this causes the cue ball to end behind the 8 ball. Now he has 2 options. In my opinion, A is better because with the 5, 9 and 8 ball, he has a much higher chance of a resave. But he decides to go this way. The problem here is that after contact, both balls will inevitably travel somewhere towards this part of the table with a very little chance of getting safe.
You can do it also from this side, but with speed.
And he left a shot for David Alcaide. Alex Kazakis tries to play a save but misjudged the speed. His goal was to put the 1 ball on the short rail. When you're playing a save like that, where it's very hard to control the cue ball, your goal is always to bring the object ball to a safe position. For example, would you rather leave something like this? Or something like this? Of course, here your cue ball is behind the 9 ball, but the jump is on. And consider, we are playing on a pro level here, so the jump shot probably has a 90% chance. If I add right spin onto the cue ball, the object ball will get left spin. If I add left spin onto the cue ball, the object ball of course will get right spin. If the cue ball has draw on it when hitting the object ball will get follow. If the cue ball has follow on it when hitting the object ball will get draw from the cue ball. But why are people playing this shot wrong because of spin transfer? The logical conclusion of what I just told you is that we have to hit low on the cue ball so that the 13 ball gets follow, hits the 2 ball and follows into the pocket. You could do this of course, but it's not the right way to do it. So, some people say, well, but you play your best pool if you don't really care. That's true, you play your best pool if you don't care about winning or losing, but you have to care about each shot, you have to care about each game and each match. And if you care about that, and if you commit to it, and if you give everything into this shot and do everything you can to make this shot, this will win you games and will you matches and maybe will win you the tournament. So it's very important that you commit to the shot, and this will increase your chances maybe by 3, 4, 5%. And you say, well, that's not much, but imagine you're playing 100 shots, 200 shots, and these few percent will increase your chance to miss maybe 3, 4, 5 balls less, and these balls that were so important will maybe win you a match and will you bring further in the tournament and will give you a higher chance to win the tournament. So commitment is really important. This is the second situation. You're seeing I'm trying to follow the cue ball really soft with a lot of left spin, a lot of inside spin, and you see I'm getting position on a 9 ball. But inside spin is always dangerous. There can many things happen that aren't good for you. You can even miss the whole shot, or you can scratch in the side pocket. So it's a really tough shot and it's really not that predictable. Of course, as you saw, it's makeable, but the better way in this case is also go the longer path. Just hit the cue ball with low right, hit it hard, and again you can hit the rail everywhere in this area and you will always have a shot on the 9 ball. If you hit a little too low, Well, yeah, then you're going this way. And if you don't hit that low, you will hit at the left side of the table. But a shot on the 9 ball is always guaranteed, and the shot gets easier. Yeah, it maybe looks harder because I have to hit the cue ball really hard, but I can hit the cue ball with outside spin, and that means automatically the shot gets easier than hitting with inside spin. And you have a guaranteed position on the 9 ball again.
Being left or right eye dominant doesn't mean that you have to put the cue exactly under this eye. Dominant doesn't mean that this eye is stronger than the other. Your brain just prefers to use this eye. It would be too simple to just put it under the dominant eye. There are too many factors that come into play. For example, if you have your head straight, if you have it in a slight angle. Look at this picture of Ronnie O'Sullivan. His head isn't straight, he has it a little bit turned. That affects your eye alignment. Another factor is how strong each eye is. As I said, dominant doesn't mean stronger. Here's Niels Fayen. His left eye only has about 10% eyesight. That's why the cue is so far to the right. Another factor that you can't even see or feel is how the both 2D images from each eye are put together by your brain. Yeah, there are so many factors. So please don't put the cue exactly under your dominant eye.
Don't get me wrong, I personally have my cue exactly under my dominant eye. But I don't do this because it's my dominant eye. I do this because of the following way to find the perfect eye alignment. So it was a wrong selection of safety type. I should have chosen the type where I control both the cue ball and the object ball. So I'm playing this shot again, and this time I'm trying to get the cue ball behind the free ball, and the 1 ball should definitely come to rest somewhere in this area and not right in front of the pocket. So this looks a lot better this time. But now let's assume the blocking free ball is in this position. So this time I didn't get the save behind the free ball, but I managed to get the 1 ball exactly towards the center of the short rail. Of course my opponent has now a clear shot on the 1 ball, but I didn't risk to sell out with an easy shot from my opponent if I didn't get the safety, like in the previous example where the 1 ball came to rest right in front of the corner pocket. Before we decide how to get from the 3 to the 4 ball, we have to use the 3 shots ahead principle. That means we want to know where the cue ball has to be for the 4 so that we can easily get position to the 5 ball. This is the straight line. A straight shot would obviously work. Being somewhere on this side of the line would also work because then we can go into the long rail and out. We definitely don't want to be on this side of the 4 ball because then the cue ball goes towards the side where the 9 ball and all the other balls are. So we know where the cue ball should end, and now we look at the natural path of the cue ball. We could easily go this path without doing much with the cue ball. But let's have a closer look at the position zones again. If we travel this path, we are a very long time on the wrong side of the 4 ball. So we could do this of course and also get the right position. And Copen could also do this. But the trick in positional play is to make things as easy as possible. So he chooses another way to get to the 4 ball.
Play safe. Especially beginners seem to not know about playing safe at all. But the safe game is a huge part when playing pool. You just can't be always aggressive and try to make every shot no matter how crazy it is. And even on shots that seem not to be that crazy and where you make even 7 out of 10 balls, you should consider to play safe. Because there's still a 30% chance to miss, and a very well played save very often wins you the match. For example, here I could try to make the 4 ball of course, but I know I am making this shot maybe 6-7 out of 10 times, and it's just way too risky, so instead I'm just playing safe, maybe get ball in hand, and then I can run out the table. One exception for playing safe. If you're playing against a very good player, you may want to try to actually make this ball, because you don't want to let your opponent at the table again. But this mindset only grabs when you're playing against a top player or especially players who are very good at kick shots.
And here I noticed that the 10 ball rose a little bit off, so I'm checking it again to see whether it was my fault or if something is in the way, for example the point, or if the table just rolls off. So again I'm putting it in a straight line, sending the cue ball straight onto the balls. And as you see, the 10 ball doesn't move straight along the rail. So now I figured out that the balls are rolling off when I'm playing it into this corner pocket. So when I'm playing in the game, I play the balls that I send into this corner pocket along the rail with a little more pace. That way I avoid that the ball rolls off. And here I also noticed that the 10 ball hit the point of the side pocket. I now know when I'm in the match and I have a situation like this, it's very dangerous to send the object ball along that rail into the corner pocket. And it's very nice for your feeling and your confidence that you checked that before, so that you know if the ball is somewhere frozen on the long rail and you want to send it into the long corner pocket, you know it works. And now I also know for this rail it doesn't work, so I will plan things differently.
Before I give you the first tip on the way, I want you to watch me playing the shot very carefully. What did we notice? Well, I got nowhere near to a nice shot on the 9 ball, but why? Let's watch it again. I'm doing my pre-strokes and here is the mistake. My backswing was way too fast. And because of that very fast backswing, I lost a lot of accuracy and didn't hit the cue ball where I intended to. So the first huge tip is slow down your backswing. There is no need to move your arm backwards that fast. The whole shot, all the energy just comes from the final forward stroke. So slow down your backswing and you won't choke on balls that often, you will have a lot more accuracy, and to be honest, everything just looks way more controlled. Well, this is a great drill to measure how good you're at making balls. The first step for the drill, place the 9 ball on that spot. The 9 ball stays there the whole time. Then you have 24 positions for the cue ball. The first position is right here. Then you're trying to make the 9 ball in whatever pocket you want. But you aren't allowed to make bank shots, and scratching is okay because the drill is pure potting and not cue ball control. If you make the 9 ball, you get 1 point. If you miss, you go to the next position and get no point. In the end, you count how many balls or points you made. Then you can compare your potting skill level with this table. In our example, we made 14 balls, so we're a B+ shot maker. I will now show you my attempt of doing this test. The second thing to get a little more out of the cue ball is to adjust your bridge length. You here see me going down on the shot with my usual bridge length. I'm able to follow through the cue ball to this point. But see what happens when I'm resetting everything and put my bridge hand closer to the cue ball. I'm now able to follow even more through the cue ball. And if I now also adjust where I hold my cue, I can follow even more through the cue ball. Look at my left hand. I'm just going a little more to the back of the cue so that I can follow through to this point. So adjusting your bridge length by going closer to the cue ball and adjusting where you hold the cue can help you to draw the cue ball more. And as you may notice, I was dropping my elbow when doing my strokes. You do not have to do this, and it's not recommended to do on shots. But you could do it on purpose and it can help you to follow even more through the cue ball. But all of this is useless if you don't have the right timing. So what do I mean by timing? When you shoot, the cue stick accelerates from 0 speed to its highest speed and then begins to slow down and finally to stop. So a graph would probably look something like this. Having the right timing means that your cue hits the cue ball at that moment where your cue is moving the highest amount of speed. So being able to follow through the cue ball as much as possible
is not necessarily the key to powerful draw shots, it's the timing.